So how does a 600-year-old empire, totally defeated and occupied, manage to transform itself into a brand new sovereign nation in less than a decade? It's an incredible story. Today we're going to dive into that story of collapse, resistance, and ultimately rebirth, the dramatic and violent decade that forged the Republic of Turkey right from the ashes of the Ottoman Empire. Okay, so our story really starts right here, at the absolute bottom. It's late October 1918. World War I is finally over, and the Ottoman Empire, which had been around for centuries, is on the losing side. You can just imagine the feeling across the land. Total exhaustion, despair, resignation. The future? It was a terrifying blank. And the document that ended the war? Well, it wasn't a negotiated peace. It was an outright capitulation. And the fine print is what's truly devastating. Just look at Article 7. It basically gave the Allied powers, the victors, the right to occupy any part of the empire just by claiming it was a security threat. This wasn't just a harsh term. It was a legal blank check to carve up the entire country however they wanted. So, with their government defeated and foreign armies showing up on their shores, the central question for millions of people was simple, and it was terrifying. Was this it? Was this the end of their story as a sovereign people? Now, you'd think the first answer to that question would come from the capital, right? From Istanbul. But the thing is, the capital was paralyzed. It was caught in this massive power vacuum where really no one was truly in charge. So who was running the show? Well, you had at least 4 competing groups pulling the strings. You got the Sultan, and he's mostly just focused on saving his own dynasty. Then you have the victorious Entente powers, the British, French, and Italians, who are occupying the city, but all have their own conflicting goals. Then you've got old political rivals trying to seize the moment, and the leaders of the wartime government, now forced to operate in the shadows. Istanbul was a city of chaos, but the real fight for the nation's future, well, that was already starting somewhere else. While the capital was tied up in knots, the real answer to that big question was starting to form far away. The focus now shifts from occupied Istanbul to the Turkish heartland, to Anatolia, where a brand new story was just beginning. You see, as Istanbul's politicians were maneuvering and scheming, a grassroots movement was stirring in the towns and provinces. People started forming what they called societies for the defense of rights. Their goal was incredibly simple: to resist the carving up of their homeland and to make it clear that Turkish-majority lands wanted to stay united. This wasn't some top-down movement. It grew from the ground up, fueled by the very real fear of foreign occupation. And this movement organized with incredible speed. It all kicks off in May 1919, when an army general, Mustafa Kemal, gets sent to the port of Samsun, officially to disarm the people. He does the exact opposite. Just 2 months later, by July, he's helped unite the eastern provinces at a congress. By September, another national congress in Sivas creates a single national representative body with Kemal as its leader. The momentum was just unstoppable. By January of 1920, this movement was so powerful that the official parliament back in Istanbul had no choice but to adopt its core demands. And this right here, this quote, is basically their mission statement. It's from the National Pact, which was their Declaration of Principles. Article 1 lays out the whole idea. Let's be really clear. This was not about trying to revive the old multi-ethnic empire. This was about creating a new, sovereign nation-state on all the lands where Turkish Muslims were the majority. This became their non-negotiable bottom line. Of course, having a declaration is one thing. Making it a reality, well, that's something else entirely. This path inevitably led to war, a desperate, all-or-nothing struggle for independence. The spark that really ignites the full-scale war is the Greek invasion. With strong British support, the Greek army lands in western Anatolia. Their mission was pretty simple: be the muscle for the Entente, crush the nationalist resistance, and force the Turks to accept a totally humiliating peace treaty. But instead of crushing the movement, the invasion just galvanized it. It lit a fire under it. The Allies decided to double down. In March 1920, British forces formally occupy Istanbul. They start arresting nationalist politicians right inside the parliament building, and then they shut the whole thing down. They thought this would be the final blow, that it would decapitate the resistance. It turned out to be a massive miscalculation. Because just 1 month later, hundreds of miles away, in the small Anatolian town of Ankara, all the politicians who had escaped the arrests, they got together. They declared themselves the Grand National Assembly, a new rival government. It's this amazing historical irony. By trying to crush the movement in the old capital, the British had accidentally legitimized the new one. From that point on, Ankara was the heart of the national struggle. The war that followed was absolutely brutal. The first challenge for the new government was just unifying all these scattered militias into a disciplined, regular army. Then came the test. After some early losses, they managed to win key defensive battles at Inunu, finally halting the Greek advance. But the real turning point came in September 1921, at the huge Battle of the Sakarya, a decisive Turkish victory. The front lines held for about a year, setting the stage for one final, massive surprise offensive in August 1922 that completely routed the Greek army and won the war. So victory on the battlefield was secured, but now came the second fight, winning the peace at the negotiating table and forging the political reality of a new Turkey. And this slide right here shows you exactly what was at stake. On the left, you've got the Treaty of Sevres, that harsh peace the Allies tried to impose back in 1920. It would have created a tiny Turkish state with no real sovereignty. On the right, you've got the Treaty of Lausanne, the one they earned through military victory in 1923. It established modern Turkey's borders, guaranteed full sovereignty, and got rid of all foreign controls. I mean, the contrast couldn't be more stark. It represents total victory. With the war won and a new treaty on the horizon, the government in Ankara took one last huge step. On November 1st, 1922, they voted to abolish the Ottoman Sultanate, officially ending over 6 centuries of imperial rule and clearing the path for a new republic. It is an incredible, triumphant story of national survival. But we have to understand the cost, because the price of this new nation was almost incomprehensibly high. Over the course of this violent decade, from the start of World War I to the end of the War of Independence, the population of Anatolia declined by a staggering 20%. That's 1 in every 5 people gone, just from mortality alone. And that percentage translates into horrifying raw numbers. Estimates suggest that 2.5 million Anatolian Muslims lost their lives between 1912 and 1922. And this wasn't just battlefield deaths, it was everything. Warfare, atrocities, famine, disease, a total catastrophe that decimated the population. So in the end, modern Turkey wasn't just born, it was forged. It was forged in a decade of nearly continuous warfare, of unimaginable loss, and of a desperate, defiant struggle for survival. And it was that fire that truly shaped everything that came after.